Hey y'all, I'm Sarah Wall in the Fox 10 newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us today as we go in depth. Today we're actually talking about a silent killer. So health officials have put out a new warning about carbon monoxide and the dangers of carbon monoxide. I know it's not really cold across our area right now, so maybe you're not getting into the portable heaters and the things like that, but it is still a good time to talk about the dangers of this. We just had another death announced that it was the cause. The cause was carbon monoxide poisoning happening, with a couple that was in a camper, a motorhome. So we want to kind of just focus in on this today, go in depth and talk a little bit about the dangers, where they might be lurking in your home, and just some reminders about how to stay safe when it comes to handling these kinds of things. And a reminder, we talk about carbon monoxide a lot when we talk about the winter months, because in the colder season, we do see a lot of people pulling out extra heaters and all of those different kinds of things. But carbon monoxide poisoning for us is also especially dangerous after a natural disaster like a hurricane. So, when people are using portable generators. So lots to talk about here. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it so we can get into all of the details. All right, so temperatures aren't that cold right now, as we just said, but they will be getting cold again next week. It is the winter season, and heaters will be put to use again soon, and that will mean the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning will be on the rise once again. So we are talking about some of the things that doctors want us to remember when it comes to staying safe. Carbon monoxide is called the silent killer. The reason for that is there is no way for us to detect it. We can't smell it, we can't taste it, we can't see it. The only way that people can detect carbon monoxide is with a carbon monoxide detector. Again, no smell, you can't taste it, you can't see it, and that's what makes it so very dangerous. Experts say proper maintenance of household appliances is key, and so is making sure you have enough carbon monoxide detectors around your home. And here's what we talked to an expert, and here's what he had to say.
It is very important to have these somewhere near where we sleep, so we will be able to be notified if there is an increase in carbon monoxide levels. You might begin to feel nauseous or lightheaded, but it can also cause more serious symptoms, such as shortness of breath, and also confusion, and even fainting, or what we call syncopizing.
So having a carbon monoxide detector is key when it comes to knowing whether there is an issue with this in your home. So you should also be checking your carbon monoxide detector every month. So heaters are running more this time of year, and there are some dangers with carbon monoxide sometimes within the appliances we have in our homes. And when we run the heaters, we do have an increased risk in carbon monoxide poisonings. Carbon monoxide is produced when there is any fuel source that's burned. It's a byproduct of that burning, and as a result, it increases or it accumulates. Carbon monoxide is dangerous to humans because it takes the place of oxygen inside our bodies. And according to doctors, symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning can include nausea, as we heard, shortness of breath, fainting, and even the possibility of death. And listen, doctors warn that this silent killer can quickly fill up a room.
It is so dangerous to humans because we have no way of detecting it outside of a carbon monoxide detector, which means we can't see it, we can't taste it, and we can't smell it. And if that carbon monoxide builds up high enough in our bodies, it can be fatal.
Yeah, so that's very scary when we think about it, right? Especially since we have no way of detecting it or knowing it's there unless we have a carbon monoxide detector. You can't smell it or see it or taste it. So experts say proper maintenance of household appliances is key. And then again, of course, making sure you have enough carbon monoxide detectors around your home. So once again, carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas. It's produced when fuels like gas, wood, propane, and charcoal burn incompletely, and it's lighter than air, so it can accumulate in enclosed spaces, making it particularly hazardous. And we wanted to take a little bit more look at what carbon monoxide poisoning is, what it looks like, and it happens when carbon monoxide builds up in the blood. When there's too much carbon monoxide in the air, carbon monoxide actually replaces oxygen in the red blood cells, so this can lead to serious tissue damage or even death. And again, it's the silent killer with no odor, no taste, and no color. Can't see it, taste it, or smell it. It comes from burning fuels, including gas, wood, propane, or charcoal. So a lot of us have appliances inside our homes that run off of these things. If we're using our wood-burning stove or we're using a fireplace, there's an issue there. Perhaps we have some of those different gas-fueled appliances. So just some things to be aware of just to make sure that everything is safe. You want to make sure that everything is vented well, because appliances and engines that aren't vented well can cause the carbon monoxide to build up to a dangerous level, and especially inside, that's worse. If you're exposed to carbon monoxide, you need to get some fresh air, seek medical care right away, calling 911. So symptoms of carbon monoxide, it's poisoning because it poisons our body, right? The carbon monoxide replaces the oxygen in our blood, right? We just talked about how carbon monoxide replaces the oxygen in our blood cells, and then that causes tissue to die. Exposure over time can lead to symptoms that can be mistaken for those like the flu, except there's no fever, okay? So clear symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning include headache, weakness, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, confusion, blurred vision, sleepiness, loss of muscle control, and loss of consciousness. Now, these are symptoms that can be, while you're being exposed to carbon monoxide. And the symptoms related to the nervous system in the brain can come on after you recover from carbon monoxide poisoning, and there is a higher risk of these for older people or people who lost consciousness if they were breathing in carbon monoxide. And we could see memory loss, personality changes, movement changes. It's especially dangerous for people who were asleep, or maybe they were on some other kind of medicine that made it so that they couldn't wake up and they were just inhaling it. Carbon monoxide is one of those kind of very scary things that we do talk about periodically during the winter months, and also we talk about it after a hurricane or something like that where we've lost power and we're using our portable generators. The National Carbon Monoxide Awareness Association is focused completely on ending carbon monoxide poisoning, but they do have some good statistics for us to take a look at here. 100,000 annual ER visits, and if you are suspected to have carbon monoxide poisoning, so important, they say, to get yourself to the doctor. Call 911 because you are going to need treatment. There is poison in your system, there is carbon monoxide replacing oxygen in your blood cells, and that is a big problem. And it could cause lingering problems even after it feels like you've recovered. 1,200 annual deaths every year, so 1,200 people die every year as related to carbon monoxide. And here's one of the things they talk about. One of the big points they're making is carbon monoxide poisoning is entirely preventable if we have a carbon monoxide detector. But only 49% of families in the U.S. have a properly functioning carbon monoxide alarm. And they also talk about the fact that there is a greater likelihood for children to get carbon monoxide poisoning in daycares or in schools. And if you're wondering what a carbon monoxide detector looks like, it looks like this, and it plugs into a wall outlet, so it's really easy to use, and you can buy them at any like home improvement store or Walmart or Target. They all sell, we could do it online. All of those places sell carbon monoxide detectors. All right, so breaking down the statistics a little bit more, what you need to know about carbon monoxide poisoning. As we mentioned, 100,000 people go to the emergency room every year. Of those, about 14,000 people stay in the hospital. They're kept in the hospital. More than 1,200 people annually, this is an average, die in the U.S. every year, and they say that deaths are going up every year as well. And, it's important to take note as well that when we look at carbon monoxide poisoning, non-fatal carbon monoxide poisonings happen in the home, and they can cause injury with long-term effects. So like we're talking about potentially appliances in our homes, we're talking about if we have to use a generator, we're talking about when it gets cold, all of those things, but in the home, 64%. So this is why this is extra scary, because we think we're home and we're safe, and these statistics are showing that this is actually where the majority of these things happen. And they talk about here underneath that light bulb, you can see that it's 100% preventable, but there is no antidote, right? So we need to be preventing this instead of allowing this to happen. 89% of Americans have fuel-burning appliances, but less than half of Americans have properly functioning carbon monoxide alarms. Fuel-burning appliances like gas-burning stoves, or if you use a wood-burning fireplace, those are some of the examples of things that we're looking at that potentially could cause an issue, potentially, with carbon monoxide poisoning. Of course, if everything's maintained and you have the alarms and that's all good. So this is all just to make sure you stay safe. So we talked about the symptoms of what it is, and seniors and pets are particularly vulnerable. So are children because they have faster metabolism and a smaller body size. The symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning shouldn't be the way we find out, right? They want us to make sure that we have carbon monoxide detectors. But here again are some of the common sources of carbon monoxide poisonings. Home heating sources, cars, fueled appliances, yard equipment, and generators, tools with combustible engines. And this is kind of grim here, but just wanted to take a look at this so that you could see. This organization, National Carbon Monoxide Awareness Association, actually keeps track of the number of people who have died from carbon monoxide each year, and they break it down for us. You can go through here, and I think what's important to note is it happens when it's cold outside. We see a big rise when it's cold outside, but also as we scroll down here, we're talking June, we're talking July, and these are the things that are happening where some of this happened inside motel rooms. Some of these happen when we're using our portable generators. There's different things that are going on here. But this is something that could happen year-round. We're especially conscious about this right now because when it comes to keeping warm, a wood-burning fireplace, a wood-burning stove, those kinds of things are potentially sources of carbon monoxide poisoning. And some people are asking, it's 2026. Is this still an issue? And the point that we're making here, the point that these folks are making here is that yes, this is definitely a problem. On average, more than 1,200 people die from carbon monoxide poisoning, and the numbers of those who have been killed are going up. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit because I wanted to show you this map right here. Alaska has the highest rate of accidental carbon monoxide poisoning deaths. So you can see when you look at this, our region of the Gulf Coast is among the lowest when it comes to carbon monoxide related poisoning and death. But I'm going to show you something in just a second that says we do have issues and we do have problems here. But good to know, and a lot of this has to do, officials say, with our climate. It is not super cold here. We're not losing power during the winter time a lot here, so we're not having to rely on some different power sources when it's cold outside and we can't open up the windows and things like that. But you notice in some of the colder places, like up north in the, you can see in Montana and Idaho, and then in the Northeast there, where it gets really cold, we are seeing, some of the issues here. In Alaska, where it's real cold as well, that we do see some of the biggest issues with carbon monoxide poisonings. Okay, so the big question, right, is where does it come from within our own home? Because it said that 64% of accidental carbon monoxide poisonings and deaths come within our own home. So where does carbon monoxide poisoning come from? So it's important to remember that if you have something that runs on batteries or electricity, that's not the carbon monoxide source. Carbon monoxide is a risk when fuel is burning to make heat or to power a tool, but it's not burning cleanly, and there's not a lot of fresh air and ventilation. So things that burn gasoline, natural gas, propane, kerosene, coal, wood, charcoal, tobacco, they can make carbon monoxide. So examples of that would be a car, a furnace, a fireplace, a water heater, portable space heater, a stove, an engine-powered tool, or a charcoal grill that could become the source of carbon monoxide. If you're using this with good ventilation, there's no problem. Like, for example, using a charcoal grill outside, no big deal, right? Everything's fine because it can go, we talked about the fact that carbon monoxide is lighter than air, so it rises and it fills up rooms and it fills up enclosed spaces. If you're outside, this stuff will move on its own. But these are some of the things that they want you to be aware of. Where does carbon monoxide live in your home? This is from the Missouri Poison Center, and it talks about some of these different places. So this time of year, we might be firing up our fireplace for the first time, but if our fireplace is blocked, we're burning wood, which is one of those combustible sources of fuel, and our fireplace, our chimney is blocked, that's going to send all those gases right back down into the house where they can't get out, so that would be a problem. Also, looking at the fireplace, that's a problem too, right? If it's not able to vent correctly or move on out of the area, we could have a problem with the fireplace as it is wood burning. A stove, if it's a natural gas stove, is potentially a problem. And there are a lot of people have been asking questions about the difference between electric appliances and gas appliances. And so the officials saying that electric appliances appliances, like electric stoves, do not produce carbon monoxide under normal operating conditions because they do not involve combustion, which is the process that produces carbon monoxide. Electric stoves use electricity to generate heat, so that bypasses the combustion process entirely. However, there are scenarios where carbon monoxide could be produced if an electric stove is installed in a kitchen with poor ventilation and a gas appliance is nearby, if there's a malfunctioning gas appliance. So there are situations that could cause this to happen, but it's from the gas, right? From the gas. And the electric stove, the electric appliances, there's not an issue so much with that. But electric appliances, electric refrigerators, electric furnaces do not emit carbon monoxide as a byproduct. They operate using an electric motor and refrigerants, making them, not an issue when it comes to this. However, you need to make sure that those are clean because, again, they're talking about normal operating procedures and normal operating conditions. So if there is a situation where there's not a normal operating condition, then we could potentially see problems. Okay, so when we talk about fireplace, that's wood burning. Stove would be gas powered potentially. Car exhaust, obviously that's a big problem. Make sure the garage door is open when you start up your car. Barbecue grills should be used outside, way away from the house. Portable generator, same thing. We talk about that all the time. When it's hurricane season and power goes out, make sure you use your generator outside. Furnaces and water heaters and dryers that are gas powered, these are all the same kinds of things we're talking about, because if that, the fumes from the gas don't have a way to get out and clear the room, clear the space, then that's when we could see some issues. So again, the symptoms from, carbon monoxide exposure, early stages, it looks like the flu with headache, dizziness, upset stomach, tired or overall sick feeling. If it's just a little high, it may cause difficulty or memory problems. Children can get sick from carbon monoxide while adults are still feeling fine. And then we could have serious things that happen from carbon monoxide, like passing out or heart attacks. And protecting our families, make sure we have a carbon monoxide detector in at least one of the bedrooms used by an adult. If that alarm goes out, everybody's got to get out and call the fire department. It says don't use anything that runs on an engine or burns fuel inside the house except appliances that are meant for indoor use and installed and operating properly. If you want to use a fireplace or wood stove, make sure the flue is open and working properly so everything can get carried away. So I just thought this was interesting. This is our website, fox10tv.com, and I just went in here and put in the search bar carbon monoxide death. And y'all look at all the things that have come up in stories that just we have done here on Fox 10 recently. So it just goes to show that this is an issue that we need to be paying attention to. And we mentioned that the weather right now is not cold, right? It's 75, 59 today. But take a look at what's going to be happening on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday when we get temperatures dropping down into the 30s again. So with winds out of the north, look at that, 14 miles per hour on Sunday. That's going to be a chilly day. So that's potentially when we may be looking for that extra heat source. Want to make sure that we're doing all of that safely. So just a reminder, that this is happening, that these are issues that people are talking about, that the safety folks want us to know about this. Like I said, they just put out there was just something that came out today about a couple that was in a camper home. They were found, and they have revealed now that the cause of death is carbon monoxide poisoning. So this can happen anywhere. It can happen to the most careful people. We just want to make sure that we are all taking care of each other. And that right there that you just saw on your screen is a carbon monoxide detector. And again, you can get them at any home improvement store or Walmart or any of those places. She's about to plug one in right there. They plug into the wall unit and they will alert you. You need to be testing them once a month, just like you do with your smoke alarms and stuff, to make sure that all is well and all is functioning properly. But so important that we all stay safe. This is another alert that gets put out. I think this gets put out pretty regularly during the winter time because we do run into more issues and we do see more problems with carbon monoxide, especially when we're looking for that extra heat source. So reminders too that you shouldn't use your stove or your oven to heat the house. All of those things, use them the way they're supposed to be used. Officials say that's the safest way to use all of those appliances. But we want to make sure that everybody is safe and get out there and make sure that we have everything in our homes that is where it needs to be so that we are safe from this silent killer. Odorless, tasteless, colorless. Can't see it, can't smell it, can't taste it. And we want to make sure that we do know if it does show up.